Good morning.
Good morning.
This is from Luke chapter 5, 1 through 11. CEV, happy to say. This is called, Jesus was standing on the shore. Forgot the title here. Jesus chooses his first disciples. Jesus was standing on the shore of Lake Gennesaret, teaching the people as they crowded around him to hear God's message. Near the shore, he saw 2 boats left there by some fishermen who had gone to wash their nets. Jesus got into the boat that belonged to Simon and asked him to row it out a little way from the shore. Then Jesus sat down in the boat to teach the crowd. When Jesus had finished speaking, he told Simon, "Row the boat out into the deep water and let your nets down to catch some fish." "Master," Simon answered, "we have worked hard all night long and have not caught a thing. But if you tell me to, I will let the nets down." They did it and caught so many fish that their nets began ripping apart. Then they signaled for their partners in the other boat to come and help them. The men came, and together they filled the 2 boats so full that they both began to sink. When Simon Peter saw this happen, he knelt down in front of Jesus and said, "Lord, don't come near me. I am a sinner." Peter and everyone with him were completely surprised at all the fish they had caught. His partners, James and John, the sons of Zebedee, were surprised too. Jesus told Simon, "Don't be afraid. From now on, you will bring in people instead of fish." The men pulled their boats up on the shore. Then they left everything and went with Jesus. Amen.
Amen. She's quite something. She is.
Wild fishing story, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
And maybe you've heard others. You know, they have the story of the fishermen that were out and they didn't really get very much. And each time they told the story, it got bigger and bigger. And they started out with a minnow and it went to a marlin. You've heard those before? It happens sometimes. People kind of exaggerate. But I believe this fishing story, and I'll tell you why. One of my favorite pastimes when I was a little girl was to go fishing with my grandfather. And so I've had a lot of fishing experience. Not with nets, but with the pole and the line and usually the worm at the end. And what I discovered is that if it was a lake that was well stocked, either artificially or just because they're breeding greatly, sometimes you can be in a place and get nothing. But if you take your boat and go somewhere else, sometimes you can get a lot of fish. And they don't always stay in the same place, those little rascals. You know, if you thought right in the middle that the fishies would be there, not necessarily. So anyway, you have to go to the right place. And then the question is, how do you know where the right place is? Well, sometimes if you're really hungry and you need to have something to eat, you might be guided. Now, if you're greedy, on the other hand, and say, I want 10 fish all for myself, you know, that's being a little greedy. Now you're having your wants rather than your needs. And that was something that my grandmother taught me. My parents were atheists, but my grandmother believed in God. And she taught me that you pray for what you need, not for what you want. So I remember when I was about 8 years old, I went with my uncle and aunt on their boat to Catalina. And my aunt had never been a Girl Scout. And she didn't know about being prepared. So all she had with her was a box of Kraft macaroni and cheese. Okay, that was it. And that's my aunt, my uncle, myself, and my little baby cousin. And that wasn't going to go too far. So anyway, they were fishing and fishing, nothing. And it was getting darker in the afternoon. They hadn't caught a thing. And they just set out assuming that they'd be catching all these fish. But that's not what happened. So they woke me up. I was down below. And they woke me up and said, well, see if you can do any better. So my grandmother said, pray for what you need. So I thought, we need to eat. I am getting very, very hungry. So I had my fishing pole and everything. And it was like there was a voice that said, make sure it sinks all the way to the bottom. Okay? So I did. Oh my goodness, I reeled it in. There was a sand dab, one of my favorite fish. So I thought, okay, one fish is not enough for the four of us. Let's do it. Same thing. I caught 7 fish that day, one right after the other. And the thing is, you also need to know that if you want sand dab, you have to let your line go to the bottom, okay? I don't know what they were planning on getting, but obviously it wasn't a sand dab. And I look back at the story of Jesus and Peter and his brother, and Peter and his brother were out there on that boat, and when they used the term Gennesaret, but really they're also talking about what we refer to as Lake Galilee. Now that lake is a very large lake, but it was even larger in the 1st century before there was so much erosion and drought and things like that. Very, very large lake. And so they didn't have the problems we have today, like people overfishing. It was a huge lake. They did not have a really large population of towns around the lake. So there's no reason why there wouldn't be plenty of fish as long as you went to the right spot, which they finally did. And so there they were in there, and Jesus told them to go back out again and go right out there where it's really deep, and you're going to find fish. And of course he was right. They did. And people that fish by net rather than by the fishing pole, you drag your nets, you have them open, and if all the fish are in the same spot, guess what? There's going to be an awful lot of fish that you can catch. And they did. I think they were so impressed, they thought, this guy has something that I want. And so they became his first disciples. But that wasn't just the 1st century. We can be disciples today. And can you think of all the things in your life that you may have prayed for and really prayed for, and it was something that you needed, you were supplied? Our church has gone through a lot of hard times when it comes to maintenance. Everybody knows that. Last weekend, our plumbing in the bathroom in Prince Eric Hall went out, and we had to call a plumber. And guess what? Plumbers aren't free.
No.
And you think, oh my gosh, we have such a tight budget and now we need a plumber. And then our lights, right? See the lights? The motor is out. So we're going to need an electrician, right? Okay? That's something else we have to deal with. And you think, how can we ever do it? Well, I remember on January 1st, I really prayed. I prayed for generosity. If anyone out there, beyond their normal pledge, can just give us money that we can use for something that we need, I pray that it will happen. Well, guess what? We had money coming into our church from an unexpected source.
Praise God.
And that will help pay for these bills that we certainly did not plan on. And it isn't like I called somebody on the phone and said, hey, we really need your money. No, of course I didn't do that. Some pastors would do that, but I don't do that. And money came. What we needed, yes, it can happen. And it's not only just with people that these things happen. How many of you ever will admit that you go on Facebook? Okay, admit it. Oh, I'm so glad some people admitted it. Thank you. Well, I know you do. I see you. Especially after church every Sunday. I always do. Okay, thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Matt.
I try to check in when I'm here.
What?
I always try to check in when I'm here.
I know you do, and I appreciate that. Right. I don't know if some of you saw the picture of this dog nursing some cats.
Aww.
Any of you see that one?
Aww.
Someone sent it to me. It was one of those share kind of things. What had happened, a dog had lost all of her puppies. I think they were like born dead. And then at the same time, there was a cat who abandoned her little kittens. So you have these little kittens, and you can't feed them cat food when they're little like that. They have to have like mama milk, right? Well, somehow the dog and the kitties got together. And I don't know how it works with kitties drinking doggy milk. But anyway, it showed a picture of this female dog nursing these little kittens. And it's like she became the mama to them.
Aww.
So there was a need, wasn't there?
Yes, there was.
Yes,
For them to be fed. I thought that was so beautiful. And I have to remember that God doesn't just care about us humans. God cares about all of
Yes,
nature.
he does.
We've gone through a horrible drought, haven't we? I mean, up until now. And I know a lot of people have been praying for rain that we really, really need it. And our prayers have been answered this year. And yes, it's inconvenient to us,
But it's
especially if you're driving, and you're driving, a lot of miles. But this is something that we really needed, right?
Yep.
And the way things are going, it looks like we will be out of the drought this year,
Thank you, Lord.
because we're also getting a lot of snow up on the mountains.
Praise the Lord.
Yes,
Amen.
absolutely. And there may be other things that we need that I truly invite you to personally pray for them. It may not just be for you, it could be for friends of yours, family, the world. There are a lot of needs. And a lot of times that need is fulfilled by another human being who's listening to God.
That's right.
Because we are instruments of God, right? We're the instruments. And sometimes we have a strong feeling about something. And if we follow that feeling, a lot of times we can save another life. I was recently reading a story about a woman who was driving. Why she was driving there in nowhere's land, I don't know. But she was on a very lonely highway, and it was wet, and she skidded and went over an embankment, and her car rolled over. She was alive, but she was not in range of any cell phone tower. And there she was, screaming her head off wouldn't work because there was nobody around there. And there was a truck driver who was driving on that highway. And of course they have very strict schedules that they need to get from one place to the next to deliver goods. But he had this strong feeling that something that he needed to stop and look. And he didn't know why he had this feeling, but he just knew he needed to stop and look. So he pulled his truck to the edge, turned off the engine, went out of his cab, and saw this car that had rolled over an embankment. And so he ran down there and was yelling, "Is there anybody there? Do you need some help or something?" And in a very, very weak voice, "I really need your help. I really need your help." And so anyway, luckily she wasn't all that injured, but she wasn't of an ability to be able to climb up there because she had broken her leg. I mean, her health was okay, but she couldn't climb up with her leg broken. So anyway, he got on his radio and was able to get a hold of the nearest fire department, and they came out and they were able to get her to a hospital and take care of her. But if it weren't for that feeling that he had, he would have just been driving on like everyone else would have been doing. I hope that all of you will pay attention to those strong feelings that you might have. It may be coming from God, and especially if it's a feeling of someone needs my help. Please avail yourselves. It can be a difference of life and death. Yes, we can be like Peter and his brother Andrew, who were out there fishing because their livelihood depended on catching fish, and Jesus was there to help them. But isn't it nice that he just happened to be at the right place at the right time to be able to lend his assistance? And that's what we're really all about. Being there for each other and listening to that voice that tells us what to do. Amen.